pleasure actually being here. I'm a marine biologist. I work down in Eilat, and I have the best job possible because my job is to build coral reefs. So that's what I actually do. Eilat is down in the south of Israel, the very tip of Israel. The nearest city to us further then is Yerucham, which will be about 2 hours drive. So it's pretty isolated. We have about 65,000 inhabitants permanent, and about, at any given time, especially nowadays, about 20,000 tourists. The population also changes by about 5,000 a year, summer or winter. There's fluctuation going on. Usually, I can see from my window Aqaba, which is the nearest city in Jordan. And of course, we have Saudi Arabia and Egypt just nearby. So it's pretty remote city. It's much of a vacation city. Tourism is the main thing that we actually have here. Having said that, since October 7th, Eilat was filled with refugees. It was the main refugee town in Israel for a long time. So before I start, I want to mention that everything I did is mainly with my students, Reem and Dar and Dor and Asa and Omer and so on, and with lots of collaboration. Natalie Chedichovsky, she's the lab manager, and she's the one who's doing much of the actual work and much of the fun. Now, corals. People know about corals because they are beautiful, because they look very nice, and because there is in the news that corals are dying and they are vanishing and so on. What are they actually? So let's start with the beginning. Basically, these are living organisms. They are related to sea anemones or to medusas. So if you want, you can take a medusa, kind of have it like pumping up and down, up and up, up and down. If you turn it upside down and settle it, it will be a sea anemone. If you'd have lots of them adjacent to each other, it will be a coral. Now, because they are colonial, they are living animals which are colonial, so they can actually share their own gut content and tissue, and can they have material moving from one to the other. If they are animals, they do have sex and they do have reproduction, only they're kind of far apart. So the reproduction is mainly by sending either the semen to the water or sending semen and eggs to the water and having the fertilization there. Then we get a planula that swims along, finds a place to settle, and then it starts to split and make another coral. Altogether, then they create those great ecosystems that we call them coral reefs, which are pretty important for many reasons. One of them is about 25% of the marine animals actually spend their some time in the coral reef. So here we see a colorful coral reef with lots of sea goldfish fishes and some dendroneptias and so on, which were actually taken at one of our study sites. That's from the Red Sea. And as I mentioned, they are made out of polyps, and the polyps can connect to each other and share material. And they do have, I mentioned sex, which is in the image below, sending their gametes into the water. And then we have the male and female gametes mix, and we get a planula that goes and swim about and settle. Or in here, you can actually have the female getting the sperm from the water and then sending out ready planula. Now, once we have coral reefs, which means lots of corals all stuck together, they are important, as I mentioned, because lots of marine life actually spend their time in the reef, either part of their time or all of it. Some just for transient, some just for feeding, some just to get cleaned, for example. Manta rays come to be cleaned in the reef, and that's it. They eat plankton, they come to be clean, and they go away. And other reasons. The other thing is because reefs are important to people. tourism is a very important reason, but also they protect the coastline from tsunamis and they protect storms and a lot of other problems. So where we are here at the far tip of the Red Sea, kind of in the center between the Arabian plate and the Arabian plate, if you see my cursor, and the African plate. The Arabian plate is moving north, and we are at the tip, the far tip of the Red Sea. Up here is Eilat, and we have coral reefs, we call them fringing reefs, all the way down to Yemen, to Bab el-Mandeb. On both sides, both Saudi Arabia mainly, and Egypt, Sudan, and Eritrea. And it's 2,000 kilometers, about 2,000 kilometers, just over 2,000 kilometers on each side, which means a 4,000 kilometer coral reef, which is the largest reef existence, although everybody knows about the Great Barrier Reef, which is about the same size, it's 2,000, but it's islands. Problem is, worldwide, is the coral reefs are under threat. Reason being, mainly because of global warming. The ocean is becoming warmer and warmer and warmer. Now, the guys living in the Mediterranean, it's kind of, you might notice that there are more animals coming through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean and being happy to live there. And even soft corals have moved from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean because the water is warmer and less and nice conditions, so they are happy to live there. But in other places, these red and yellow and pink colors mean high temperature, much higher than normal, and this causes coral reefs to bleach. Bleach meaning throwing away their symbiotic algae. They have algae which live in them. I have a friend just across from me. You can actually see his house from my window in Jordan. It took us 4 years to get a grant from USAID. The executive at his university was supposed to sign on the contract on October 11th. Obviously, that didn't happen, and there is no connection now anymore. Currently, there is no connection whatsoever. There are some meetings that happen with Jordanians, with people from Saudi Arabia, but they now happened in other places, such in France, for example, sometimes in Cyprus. We do have these type of connections. But currently, everything is stopped and stalled. Reefs are dying. It's a problem worldwide, also in Israel. That's the bottom line. We people like to build things on the coast. We love the coast. Everybody likes, seafront property is wonderful, is expensive. Ocean view just add about 15 to 20% to any property in value, and we build a lot. We build wave breakers, rigs, we build wind turbines, a lot of things. And when we build them, we say, oh, well, we have to build it, and nature has to pay the price. So my task, and thing that I'm trying to do, is mainly can give back marine life, to actually add marine life into the construction that is going on. Mind you, I'm not the only one. A couple of students of mine created a company that actually does that with wave breakers and so on. So what we are working on is an oil jetty. The oil jetty here, which is not working. Mind you, all the harbors in Eilat are now closed. No ships can go in and out because of the Houthis. But this oil jetty has been abandoned for several years before that. And there is one which is active, but this one was left alone, given back to the public. So what we want to do is we want to take the pillars underwater and to make them into a living community ecosystem. So what we did first was to build these balconies all around them, on the pillars, and on the balconies to create special settling devices, and then have corals and fish and whatever settle on them. You see, so we went and built them and deployed them, and it's lots of fun. It really, really is lots of fun, going diving, doing construction underwater. It's fun. Here's the balconies, and we put in different settlement devices for corals to settle on, and clams and oysters, and you name it. And then we also put in some shelters. We put in shelters which are made out of clay, and they have fishes settle in them. And we looked at different scientific questions of how they should be, single or together, and size, and so on. And we got very nice numbers, and we found that everything is connected to everything, so fishes move from one to the other happily. But it was basically art, you know, and it really is art. And there is a lady, Ruti Hazi. She's the artist. She's living here in Shaharut, which is a community out in the desert, really in the middle of nowhere. And she's an artist there, and she actually built them first, our clay models. And then she moved on, and she's doing lots of different artistic stuff with the same idea. And she's displaying it wherever she can. She's really, really great. But now we want to do something that actually is not just art, but has to do something with the environment. Really know what we are doing. So we say, let's think about what does a fish need? A fish, really, what would it like? Let's say that food is coming from the water, it doesn't need food. What else? Well, it will need a shelter, and it will need a place to sleep. So if it needs a shelter and a place to, the shelter should be small enough that it can go in, but no predator can go in there either. Oh. So this is our fish, and this is our shelter. A tube that can go in, and a place to sleep, another tube, and so on. And then the fish can go, the sleeping quarters is the size of the fish, a bit larger, so he can sleep comfortably. And only the fish can go inside, no predator can go inside. But then we said, okay, well, actually it's a colleague of mine, said, let's move from that and go into real mathematical or geometric, putting two functions, sinus and cosine, and we got the same shape. And the fish can go in and sleep there and be happy, hopefully. And we can do that in 3D. And that's what we did here. So now we are printing a structure which in 3D, which actually have lots of holes and cavities and so on that we actually know what they are. And we put them in the water. And we have water flow going in them, and we check them, all the scientific part. And here are the structures. The first one, the one which just holds the tubes, and the 3D one. And this is the 3D one from last week. So you see that corals are covering it, and fishes are leaving it, and everybody's happy. But if we know how to do that, then we can go and have shapes, figures. And then we decide we are going to make statues. And then came the October 7th, and the massacre of October 7th. And now it's a bit personal, because my name is Nadav. My older daughter is Yam. My youngest daughter is Gal. And if that might ring a bell, I work on corals, which is Almog. And I actually do know the Almog Holstein family. And if you don't know their story, what happened that the father and the older daughter, Nadav and Yam, were murdered in Kfar Aza on the first day, and the mother and the three children were taken to Gaza. At first, and the grandfather, Doron Almog, told us, they're not coming back. Start planning the Shiva and the memorial and so on. Later on, news came back that they are alive, and after over 50 days, they came back. But then I decided to make it all into statues of children. All of them are children playing or doing something, and they all are cut with shape of a heart in the chest. And the faces, they are general faces. They were not, as I planned in originally, specific faces, although that might change in a while. So we have these children there, and we have lots of children that actually came from different places in Israel to study about it and check with it. And we have schools from Dimona and schools from Yerucham and of course, from Eilat. They came to learn marine biology and also play with the dolls. And then they were deployed. Now, each of them actually have a cement bottom, so it won't float away. The material is called ABS. Now, what the heck is ABS? Who cares about ABS? Well, anybody who has children care about ABS because that's what you make Lego out of it. And if you can make Lego out of it, then it's actually safe for children to put in their mouth, but it's also safe for marine life. And it's also pretty strong. Anybody who stepped on a Lego piece knows it's strong. And it sinks, it doesn't float. So if something will break, it will fall to the ground and won't become some kind of a floating plastic debris. So we took them like this, which is with special underwater parachutes, carry them around and deploy them and put them on the balconies. And here's the way they look just after they were deployed. One of them is actually having a selfie, kind of ready for people to come and play with her. The one in blue is catching the ball that the one in the green is sending. And we have this guy that is sitting there underwater. And by now, fishes live inside it. This is no and corals are growing on it. And it really is becoming an attraction. At first, when it was only a white figure underwater, and now you can also see now the heart cut in the chest, and a school of fish in the background. Israel coastline is very, very small. It really is, in a global scale, it won't even count. It will disappear, nobody will know. But we develop methodologies that are being used all over the world by now. Ways of planting corals, ways of how to address desertification, what to do and what not to do, how to look at open spaces, things about connectivity, things about in coral reefs, moving corals from one place to the other. Myself, I developed with collaboration of a school in Australia, actually turning coral restoration into a profession. So the whole curriculum, which is now accepted by the Australian training and work authorities about how to restore corals, but also to conserve coastal marine environments. So basically it's a small country, but we export a lot of the knowledge all the time. We have students coming from abroad. This is the way it looks now. People are interacting with it. Fishes are interacting with the structures. People are playing with it, playing with the ball, or taking selfies, and lots of that. Not only scuba divers, a lot of free divers are coming by. What's the next stage for this project? 2 more statues are being produced now. One will be pink, one will be reddish, I think. And we are, I'm always open for ideas of what could be nice to have and what would be attractive and so on. Oh, by the way, about collaboration, pretty strong collaboration with CCMR, which is in the Algarve. Anyway, um, that's about it. That's kind of my story about this project. I will mention there is a debate going on about what to do with conservation, environmental conservation. You know, the best thing to do is to leave it alone and reduce human footprint and reduce human population for as much as possible, and let everything go along. If I will go to the extreme, that means let's commit joint suicide. But I'm not willing to be the first. So what I'm trying to do, and there is a whole group of us, which is working on something that is aimed at reconciliation ecology, which means let's be able to get construction and human activities going along the way with nature. So if we build something, if we build a port, then we will have the wave breakers and the piers such that animals can live in them and will be happy to live in them. Here is a pier, for example. Same will go with an oil rig. Not many people are willing to give up fossil fuel. And Israel, for example, will not give up the gas because of environmental issues. So let's try to make the gas rigs more environmentally friendly. And that's an approach which Israel is at the forefront of it. Thank you all. Okay, take care.